What was your reaction when you found out that they weren't going to be able to vote for you in the primary?
This is the big moment. This is when I voted for Bernie Sanders in the Democratic primary, and of course for the delegates. When you fill out the ballot, you vote for the candidate you want and for the delegates pledged to the candidate you want. Now remember, this is the primary, and the purpose of this is to try to prevent Hillary Clinton from getting the nomination. I'll put a link in the video description to an article where it shows that a lot of the Arab population in the United States is voting for Bernie Sanders because they understand that he's a superior candidate to Hillary Clinton. As I've said in a previous video, he's not ideal, but this isn't the general election. The purpose of the primary is to select who do you want the nominee to be for the party that you're voting in. So when the general election comes around, you can vote for whoever you want. You can vote for your ideal candidate. And you can see this video where I show myself voting in the general election last time. And remember, I would not write in Bernie Sanders in the general election if he loses the primary. The reason is that I think you're voting for the party. So what the electors will do is they'll just then cast those votes for Hillary. They're not going to throw away the votes on someone that's not on the ballot. It will make no sense. So instead of Bernie or bust, it should be Bernie or green. And the threat should be, make it known that if Bernie does not win the nomination, we're going to vote for Jill Stein. Another example of the dominating media's contempt for democracy and failure to serve the interests of the people is the fact that they do not do a good job of informing the public about the deadline to register to vote in the primary if you need to change your party because you're not registered in the party that you want to vote in. And proof of that is that some of the Trump children missed the deadline because they were not registered as Republicans. They were either registered as some other political party or hadn't declared a party. An obscure bit of election law requires voters to change their party enrollment prior to the registration deadline for the general election in November, the year before the primary, giving New York the earliest change of party deadline of the 11 U.S. states with a closed primary system. New York is also the only state among those 11 where the deadline doesn't fall within the same calendar year as the primary. That's a lot more newsworthy than the way the major media treat it. Here's a reminder on the New York City Campaign Finance Board. Don't miss the party primaries in 2016. With the first debates of the 2016 campaign behind us, now is the time for voters to start preparing for New York's presidential primary on April 19th. Too soon, you say? Common sense might agree with you, but not state election law. New York voters face an October 9th deadline to be eligible to cast a ballot in party primary elections next year. Any registered voter who currently is not enrolled in a party will not be able to participate in the primary elections next year if they miss this deadline. This applies to voters who leave a political party line blank or indicate that they do not wish to enroll in a party. Likewise, registered voters who are enrolled in a party but want to change their party enrollment will need to do so by October 9th, that's of 2015, for the change to take effect in 2016. That is not adequately reported by the mass media. And as I said, one of the examples showing that is that even some of Trump's children missed the deadline. And Anderson Cooper shamelessly asks them what happened.
Ivanka, Eric, it's no surprise. I got to ask you, there was news just this week that both of you were not registered to vote in the primary. What happened?
Well, I'm an independent, and I've always voted based on the candidate as opposed to based on the party. And it was actually a very interesting experience. So we're not a family of politicians. We haven't been in politics very long. New York has one of the most onerous rules in terms of registration, and it required us to register a long time ago, almost close to a year ago. And we didn't do that. We found out about it sort of after the fact. But it was actually why I started making a series of videos to educate people in each of the individual states, because every state is different. Most states you can register as late as the day of the actual
When did you realize
primary.
you weren't going to be able to vote in the
Around a week later.
Is that right?
Yeah, so.
Eric, how about for you?
Yeah, no, it was the same thing. I mean, we both fell into that same boat, and it was our first kind of foray into politics. We didn't realize how the whole system worked, and it was amazing. We actually made it a very big part of the campaign, and there's no one that's been more visible on the campaign than the two of us, but we made it a very big part to get that message out. You know, get out, register, go out, vote. Here's how you do it, and we gave them all the tools and everything to actually go out and figure out that process. And so it actually was a great educational process for us.
They should have said to Anderson, hey, Anderson, maybe if you did a better job reporting the news, we would have known about it. Please see this video where I talk about how YouTube is crushing journalism. I read the petition which I'm trying to promote and asking people to sign and share. It's bad enough how the dominating mass media behaves, but with YouTube's policy change, they're crushing the dream of independent journalism.